What is English literature? Origin, definition, history, periods, and authors. English literature is the study and analysis of written works produced in the English language. It encompasses a wide range of texts, including poetry, novels, plays, and non-fiction, spanning from the Anglo-Saxon period to the present day. Literature simply refers to any piece of writing that is valued as a work of art. In a general sense, it is the expression of human thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Literature can display both good and bad aspects of society. Hence, literature can be regarded as a mirror of society. Whatever changes the society undergoes, they will be reflected in contemporary literature in one way or the other. Literature then is a successful medium to express human emotions, sadness, happiness, pleasure, pain, love, hate, fear, disgust, and anger. Such human emotions in literature are expressed artistically through language. It means literature needs to be beautiful and trustworthy. Origin of literature. The word literature originated from the Latin word literatura, which means learning, writing, grammar. This word was formed from litera, which means letter or character. It was used in the context of education and learning, specifically the study of written texts. In the Middle Ages, the term literature was used to refer to the works of scholars and poets, and it was not until the 18th century that the term began to be used more broadly to refer to all written works. Authors. One of the most iconic works of English literature is William Shakespeare's plays. His plays are still performed and studied all over the world. Other notable works include the epic poem Beowulf, the novel Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and the novel Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Geoffrey Chaucer, 1340s, 1400, has been called the father of English literature, or, alternatively, the father of English poetry. Study of English literature. The study of English literature can encompass many different elements, including literary history, literary theory, literary criticism, and literary analysis. It can also encompass the study of literary movements and genres, such as the Romantic period, the Gothic novel, and the sonnet. In addition to studying the literary texts themselves, the study of English literature also often involves the examination of the historical, cultural, and social contexts in which the texts were produced. This can include studying the life and times of the author, as well as the cultural and political climate of the period in which the text was written. The study of English literature can also encompass the analysis of literary form and technique, such as the use of symbolism, imagery, and metaphor. It can also encompass the study of literary genres, such as novels, poetry, and drama. Overall, the study of English literature is a diverse and multifaceted field that offers a wide range of opportunities for exploration and analysis. Whether you are interested in the literary texts themselves, the historical and cultural contexts in which they were produced, or the technical elements of literary form and technique, there is something for everyone in the field of English literature. History of English literature. English literature and history are closely intertwined, as the literature of a particular time period is often a reflection of the historical and cultural context in which it was produced. The Anglo-Saxon or Old English period, 450 to 1066. Anglo-Saxon is derived from two Germanic tribes, the Angles and the Saxons. This literary period begins around 450 when they invaded Celtic England, together with the Jutes. In 1066, Norman France, led by William, defeated England, bringing the period to a close. The historical events that happened in that period greatly influenced the literature at the time. Though Christianity was present, paganism dominated the literature in this period. Oral literature dominated the first part of this period, at least until the 7th century. Some writings, such as Beowulf and those by period poets Cædmon and Cynewulf, are notable, but much of the literature during this time was a translation of something else or otherwise legal, medicinal, or religious. The Anglo-Norman or Middle English period, 1066 to 1500. The Middle English period marks a significant shift in England's language, culture, and way of life, resulting in what we now identify as modern, recognizable English. The period lasts until roughly 1500. Much of the Middle English texts were religious in character, as they were in the Old English period. Nevertheless, secular literature began to emerge from 1350. Chaucer, Thomas Malory, and Robert Henryson all lived during this time period. Piers Plowman and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight are two notable works. Morality plays, miracle plays, and interludes were among the most highly regarded works of the medieval English literature era. Everyman was a popular morality play at the period, and miracle plays were commonly presented in churches and were based on the Bible. The Renaissance period, 1500 to 1660. Although critics and literary historians have begun to refer to this time as early modern, we will continue to refer to it as Renaissance. The period includes the Elizabethan Age, 1558 to 1603, the Jacobean Age, 1603 to 1625, the Caroline Age, 1625 to 1649, and the Commonwealth period, 1649 to 1660, are commonly separated into four parts. English play flourished throughout the Elizabethan period. Christopher Marlowe, Francis Bacon, Edmund Spenser, Sir Walter Raleigh, and, of course, William Shakespeare are among its notable personalities. The Jacobean Age is named after the reign of James I, John Donne, Shakespeare, Michael Drayton, John Webster, Elizabeth Carey, Ben Jonson, and Lady Mary Wroth are among the authors represented. During the Jacobean period, the King James Bible was also published. The Caroline Age spans Charles I's, Carolus, reign. Among the famous figures are John Milton, Robert Burton, and George Herbert. Finally, between the end of the English Civil War and the restoration of the Stuart monarchy, the Commonwealth period was designated. This was the time when Puritan Oliver Cromwell led Parliament, which dominated the country. To avoid public assembly and combat moral and religious breaches, public theatres were shuttered, for nearly 2 decades, at this period. Political writings like John Milton and Thomas Hobbes emerged, and prose authors such as Thomas Fuller, Abraham Cowley, and Andrew Marvell produced prolifically. The Neoclassical period, 1660 to 1798. The Restoration, 1660 to 1700, the Augustan Age, 1700 to 1745, and the Age of Sensibility, 1745 to 1785, are all periods within the Neoclassical period. The Restoration period sees some response to the Puritanical age, especially in the theatre. Restoration comedies, comedies of style, arose during this period, thanks to the work of authors such as William Congreve and John Dryden. As indicated by Samuel Butler's popularity, satire too became highly popular. Aphra Behn, John Bunyan, and John Locke are among the other renowned writers of the period. The imitation of Virgil and Horace's writings in English letters are the hallmark of this period. Addison, Steele, Swift, and Alexander Pope are among the best-known English authors. Voltaire was the most well-known French author outside of France. This time represents the beginning of the move to Romanticism, albeit it is still predominantly neoclassical. Dr. Samuel Johnson, Boswell, and Edward Gibbon are examples of neoclassical authors, while Robert Burns, Thomas Gray, Cooper, and Crabbe are examples of writers who moved away from the neoclassical ideal. This time is known in America as the colonial period. Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Thomas Paine are among the colonial and revolutionary writers represented. The Romantic period, 1798 to 1837. The beginning of the Romantic period is a point of debate between historians. Some say it's 1785, right after the Age of Sensibility ended. Others think it began in 1789, when the French Revolution began, while others believe it began in 1798 when William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge's book Lyrical Ballads was published. The Romantic Age is basically the age of romance. The Romantic poet takes inspiration from Elizabethan masters, Shakespeare, Spenser and others, and also focuses on and chooses the language of common people. The poet of the Romantic era proved that poetry based on everyday life could also be interesting if only they are treated in the right way. The Augustan style of writing was likewise rejected by Romantic prose authors. They resorted to Renaissance writing, which was ponderous, poetical, and flowery. Wordsworth, Coleridge, William Blake, Lord Byron, John Keats, Charles Lamb, Mary Wollstonecraft, Percy Bysshe Shelley, Thomas de Quincey, Jane Austen, and Mary Shelley are among the giants of this age. The Gothic era, from 1786 and 1800, is a smaller but equally popular period. Matthew Lewis, Anne Radcliffe, and William Beckford are notable writers from this time period. The Victorian period, 1837 to 1901. Victorian literature flourished in the period of Queen Victoria. The era saw the unification of Romanticism and realism. This age was great for both poetry and prose. Alfred Lord Tennyson was the greatest poet of the Victorian era. Alfred's poetry was passionate, and it admirably mirrored the era, with its blend of religious confusion and social conviction. Robert and Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Christina Rossetti, Alfred Lord Tennyson, and Matthew Arnold are among the poets of this period. At this time, Thomas Carlyle, John Ruskin, and Walter Pater were moving the essay form forward. Finally, under the tutelage of Charles Dickens, Charlotte and Emily Bronte, Elizabeth Gaskell, George Eliot, Marian Evans, Anthony Trollope, Thomas Hardy, William Makepeace Thackeray, and Samuel Butler, prose fiction found its true home. Modern History period. The 20th century saw a continuation of the trends established in the 19th century, with the emergence of the modernist movement and the rise of the novel as a dominant literary form. Some of the most notable works from this period include the novels of James Joyce, the poetry of T.S. Eliot, and the plays of Samuel Beckett. The history of English literature is also closely tied to the history of England. Many of the literary works from different time periods reflect the political and social changes that were taking place in the country at the time. For example, the literature of the 18th century reflects the rise of the middle class and the emergence of new economic and political systems, while the literature of the 19th century reflects the Industrial Revolution and the rise of the working class. It's important to note that English literature and history are not limited to England alone, it also encompasses the literature and history of the British Isles and its colonies. This includes literary works produced in Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, as well as literature produced by writers of the British Empire, such as Rudyard Kipling, Chinua Achebe, and Joseph Conrad. English literature as a subject. English literature refers to written works produced in the English language. It encompasses a wide range of texts, including poetry, novels, plays, and non-fiction, from the Anglo-Saxon period to the present day. The study of English literature includes literary history, literary theory, literary criticism, and literary analysis of the texts themselves, as well as the examination of the historical, cultural, and social contexts in which the texts were produced. Literature also encompasses the analysis of literary form and technique, such as the use of symbolism, imagery, and metaphor, as well as the study of literary genres, such as the novel, poetry, and drama. Additionally, the study of English literature also encompasses the analysis of contemporary literature and popular culture, including the study of film, television, and digital media. Conclusion. Thus, literature is a vital record of what men have seen in life, what they experienced of it, and what they have thought and felt about those aspects of it that have the most immediate and enduring interest for all of us. It was thus fundamentally an expression of life through the medium of language. Literature could be said to be a sort of disciplined technique for arousing certain emotions. It begins with the creative possibilities of human language and the desire of human beings to use their language creatively. Literature enriches our lives because it increases our capacities for understanding and communication. It helps us to find meaning in our world, to express it and share it with others. And this is the most humane activity of our existence. Overall, the study of English literature and history offers a rich and diverse field of exploration, providing insight into the cultural, political, and social contexts of different time periods and the literary works that were produced during those times. Whether you are interested in the literature itself or the historical and cultural contexts in which it was produced, there is something for everyone in the field of English literature and history.